Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today it is time to look on the update Red Skies dev server at a new plane which is coming to the French tech tree. This is the M.D.454A. It is a French plane which is going to be at rank 6 in the tech tree, with the two Mirages moving up to rank 7, and it is going to be just before the Super Mystère and just after the M.D.452 2C. The M.D.454A is actually one of those machines that has a lot of interesting qualities to it. The first one being the engine, a Hispano-Suiza Verdon 350 with 3300 kgf of takeoff thrust in it. It also has some really interesting designs for its fuel tanks, meaning that they cover the whole of the wing in small little segments, and even two cylindrical ones, which you can find here. The main armament on this thing is two DEFers, the 30mm, with 300 rounds of ammunition, so it's going to have no issue with being able to deal with plane targets and even with ground targets. The DEFers in general, the AP and HIT rounds, pen enough to be able to kill light pillboxes and stuff like that in aerialistic very easily, and also top down a lot of targets when it comes to ground realistic. It also gets a pretty impressive set of secondary weapons, including missiles, rockets, and bombs. Not the normal ones you'll be used to, though. The MD454 gets access to AA Nords, which are the air-to-air version of the Nords, and they have a proximity fuse in them. They're M-close, so you guide them with the keyboard, and if they get close to a target, well, they proximity blow up and blow up the target too. It also gets access to snabs, which are very powerful, and also 1,000-pound bombs. It can carry a hell of a loadout, actually, which is really nice to see. You know, the 2,000-pound bombs plus all of these snabs in here, which are really, really cool. It also gets access to, as you can see here, the 400 kilo bombs if you want to take them instead, but I think the thousands are generally better just for that added bit of explosive mass. You can also take a bunch of rockets. It's similar to a few other jets that we have in the game, where it actually has this undercarriage area, which is here, and I'll try and show you it in a test flight because it's actually really interesting. It comes out of the bottom of the fuselage, and you can actually fire a bunch of them at once, and the whole idea is to try and keep this thing aerodynamic when it generally has to fly, and then when it gets to the target area it's able to actually, you know, put out the rockets and fire. It also has a fully done up cockpit, which is really cool. A lot of the planes that I've seen on the dev server so far don't have this feature, which hopefully will be rectified by the time they're out on the live server. Normally it is. You know, most planes don't come with no cockpit, but you can see there the rockets are actually put into the bottom of the fuselage, and then if you open the bomb bay door, as it's called, they then drop down and then you can fire them. Obviously we're going to fire these ones first, but then you can see it just fires them a little bit at once, and then the next ones come out and the next ones come out, and it's pretty cool. So I like that fact. I like the fact that they have this for the machine itself, and it means that it's open to a bunch of different weaponry setups compared to a bunch of other planes that are in the game. The fact is, when it's come to a lot of these French fighters around rank 5 and rank 6, they're not very fun to fly. The MD452s are really rough, the F-84F is not as good as some of its contemporaries, and therefore you have to rely on trying to get past them to get to something like a Super Mystère. And the Super Mystère in its own self is an okay aircraft, but at the same time it's also at 9.0, and it faces a lot of vehicles at 9.397, which outperform it in a quite large way. Then you get to the Mirages. The Mirages are very solid, but in order to get there you have to get through so much, well, honest rubbish, that you end up having a situation where it's not too fun to actually play through, and the grind itself is not really worth it. Even starting at rank 1 France Aviation, there are little nuggets of hope, you know, with vehicles such as the VG-33, or vehicles such as the H-75s, but then you end up fighting a ton of separate vehicles, or sorry, you end up using a ton of separate vehicles which are just not fun to use, and you get to the point of rank 5 and rank 6 and you've run into so many of those it kind of puts you off kind of finishing the tech tree. And that's pretty much what happened to me. You know, I ran into a ton of French vehicles, spaded a few of them, realized it wasn't worth my time playing stuff like the Orujan and Barujan, and just played stuff which was just much easier to play, and I'll get back to them at some point. It happens with certain vehicles every so often. You know, for me, stuff such as the Sea Venom is another example of this. There are just vehicles at certain BRs which are just not fun to play, even in a sense of the underdog. And hopefully this M.D.454 will be fun to play. Hopefully it will be better than its brothers, the M.D.452s and stuff like that, because it really would be nice to finally get something in France which isn't a Mirage, that's a jet, which is actually meta instead of scraping along the bottom of the barrel. And the 454 could be it. I don't think it's going to be. I think it's still going to get outperformed by the Sabres. I think it's still going to get outperformed by the MiG-15 Bisses that are at its BR. But at least in a ground forces sense, with the rockets and with the bombs, it'll have a multi-purpose. It'll be able to be used in different ways, and it'll be able to have a little bit more use in the game. I'm a little bit worried about the French tech tree. I don't see a lot of people playing the aviation part of it for, well, good reason, but at least in a little bit of time, you know, they can add a bunch of vehicles which are very fun for it, including more Mirages, more versions of the Étendard, such as the Super Étendard, and hopefully that means that getting through these vehicles will be a little bit easier. Also, with the advent of rank 7 in the game, it means that vehicles like this have a very great chance of actually being moved down to the research cost of 250,000 instead of 380 and 390, so they'll be easier to modify and easier to get through. That would be a big change to a vehicle like this, because it means you wouldn't have to invest so much effort in to be able to be combat effective, because they rely so much on their energy and also acceleration, and that's two things the French jets are generally not too great at. The 30s are nice though. You know, as I said, the 30s are very standardly good on vehicles like this. There really isn't a plane in the game where you would rather have other guns apart from this. Maybe the Vulcan, actually definitely the Vulcan you would rather have, but everything else, you know, the 30s work incredibly well. I just really hope this thing finds a place in the game. I hope people enjoy it. I hope people have a good time in it. I'm skeptical, just because of the fact that France is France, and I've had too many negative experiences in the past to really be wowed by another jet which will be substandard. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank BRFC, Swollen Ostrich, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe A, Conte Baraka, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Lafouche, Barine, and Samuel Schlick for supporting the channel.